The rippling waves of anxiety and emotion, though profoundly human and frequently misunderstood, can be compared to the precise strokes of a master swordsman's blade, sharp, penetrating, and ultimately essential for the pursuit of mastery. At first glance, anxiety is often viewed as a purely debilitating force, the familiar knot in the stomach, the restless mind, and the grueling nights spent staring at the ceiling. For many, it acts as a cage, turning individuals into prisoners of their own thoughts and creating a barrier to living a full life. However, if one looks through the fog of this overwhelming emotion, they can find moments of clarity that serve as catalysts for growth and sources of unparalleled motivation. This transformative process is perfectly embodied by Miyamoto Musashi, a name that resonates not only in the annals of Japanese history, but also in the minds of warriors and thinkers worldwide. While his duels and strategic genius are legendary, the true depth of his psyche reveals a complex interaction with anxiety that shaped his entire journey. Rather than letting these feelings consume him, Musashi channeled that restless energy to forge his path, refine his skills, and deepen his philosophical perspectives. Musashi's initial encounters with anxiety began long before he became a legend. His life was anything but linear. Growing up without the guiding hand of his parents, he was thrown prematurely into a world of immense responsibility and high expectations. His early years were not filled with the immediate glories of triumph, but rather with the piercing lessons of defeat and the heavy weight of self-doubt. These moments of internal tumult laid the foundation for his introspective journey. Instead of being intimidated by these feelings, Musashi viewed them as signs. Every anxious thought and every step of uncertainty became an opportunity for self-assessment and growth. These early episodes did not obstruct him. Instead, they became the sharpening stone against which he honed his spirit. Just as raw steel must submit to the heat and chaos of the forge to emerge as a masterpiece, Musashi's internal adversities acted as the crucible for his evolution, paving the way for the legend he was destined to become. As he entered the prime of his life, Musashi appeared to be an indomitable force, yet beneath his calm and confident exterior lay the subtle nuances of anxiety that continued to throb through his veins. He chose not to reject this restlessness, but to use it as a catalyst to push himself further. In the delicate dance between complacency and ambition, many would have settled for their past achievements, but Musashi's underlying anxiety compelled him to constantly push his limits. This was not a paralyzing fear that kept him rooted in place, but a stimulating energy that whispered to him during quiet nights, reminding him that there was always another horizon and another challenge waiting just out of sight. His greatness was not merely a result of raw talent. It was driven by his relationship with his internal struggles. Anxiety became the invisible hand, guiding him toward continuous refinement, serving as a constant reminder that even in mastery, there is always room for evolution. This anxiety also manifested as strategic foresight, where fear was transformed into meticulous preparation. Every move Musashi made was calculated, and every decision was deliberate, born from a deep familiarity with the what-ifs of combat. The battlefield is a realm of extreme uncertainty, where sudden changes in an opponent's strategy or environmental factors can lead to disaster. Musashi's anxiety acted as an internal alarm system, making him acutely aware of potential pitfalls and urging him to remain hypervigilant. This heightened sense of alert forced him to train with an intensity that few could match, allowing him to anticipate the ebb and flow of combat scenarios. By understanding and leveraging his anxiety, he turned what most would consider a weakness into a distinct strategic advantage, proving that power lies in the ability to transmute nervous energy into decisive action. Finally, this internal struggle for balance found its ultimate expression in Musashi's signature Niten Ichiraior, or the style of two swords. This technique serves as an emblematic representation of his internal dichotomy, the masterful blend of offense and defense, fear and courage. The use of two swords is symbolic of his journey. One sword represents the immediacy of action, often sparked by the sharp impulses of fear, while the other represents the patience and deliberate movement rooted in courage and precision. In the vast landscape of Musashi's life, anxiety was never the enemy. It was the unrecognized ally that provided the impulse to carve his name into history. Through his example, we see that in the shadows of our own anxiety, the shine of greatness is often waiting to be revealed. Miyamoto Musashi, through a lifetime defined by countless battles and profound introspection, identified a transformative truth. The path to mastery was not about the total eradication of fear, but rather the ability to coexist with it. To Musashi, anxiety was not a weakness to be discarded. Instead, with its sharp and sudden stabs, it became the very impulse for his sword, urging speed and instinctive reactions in the heat of combat. In contrast, his accumulated wisdom and courage guided his hand, ensuring that his haste never devolved into recklessness. Thus, his unique fighting style was far more than a mere display of physical skill. It was a physical manifestation of his internal journey, a place where anxiety, composure, fear, and courage merged into a single harmonious rhythm of life in combat. As the echoes of colliding swords vanished, Musashi would often retreat into the profound embrace of solitude. Far from the tumultuous sands of the battlefield, he sought refuges of absolute calm, whether in the heart of dense forests or the depths of isolated caves. This deliberate isolation was not an escape from society, but a focused journey inward, seeking clarity amidst the internal chaos of a warrior's mind. Within the silent walls of introspection, Musashi dealt with his anxiety directly. Instead of allowing it to consume him, he chose to engage with it, treating every moment of loneliness as an opportunity to understand the root of his fears. Upon recognizing them, he could then transform these disturbing feelings into profound perspectives. In the silence of isolation, anxiety was transformed from a threatening shadow into a guiding light, revealing hidden vulnerabilities and highlighting strengths of which he was previously unaware. These introspective periods became sessions of immense growth, where he channeled the raw energy of anxiety into refining his skills as both a warrior and a human being. From the preceding silences of self-reflection, Musashi emerged with the realization that comfort was the ultimate enemy of mastery. While many sought training grounds that facilitated ease, Musashi deliberately chose the opposite. He placed himself in the harshest environments, from rain-soaked forests to terrains covered in deep snow, converting the elements themselves into his training partners. These extreme landscapes were not mere backdrops, but active participants in his development. By battling howling winds and maintaining his balance on slippery, treacherous terrain, Musashi realized that the unpredictability of nature reflected the uncertainties of life and the anxiety they brought. By placing himself under these challenging conditions, he was tangibly simulating the unpredictable battles he would face against enemies and, more importantly, against his own internal apprehensions. This rigorous training served as a crucible that shaped both his physical agility and his mental strength. Each drop of sweat in the cutting cold and each trial through swirling sands refined his spirit. Musashi believed that by immersing himself in discomfort and making friends with anxiety, one could master not only the art of the sword but the very art of living. Each challenging session was an external representation of his internal battles, pushing him to confront, adapt, and eventually take advantage of his anxieties. Through this tireless search, he transformed what most saw as obstacles, discomfort, and anxiety into the very tools required for his unparalleled greatness. The legacy of the lone samurai continues to impact modern interpretations, from captivating novels and films to martial arts dojos throughout the world that still worship his double sword techniques. However, more than his physical prowess, it is Musashi's relationship with anxiety that stands as a beacon for many today. As our modern world grapples with an epidemic of anxiety, the figure of the solitary samurai emerges as an inspiration. He exemplifies the transformative power of recognizing and taking advantage of internal struggles, proving that anxiety, often seen as a paralyzing emotion, can actually be a powerful catalyst. He reminds us that under the weight of our concerns lies a latent potential, and that by confronting our anxieties, we too can carve paths toward greatness. In his final years, after decades of tireless duels, Musashi carved a name without parallel, yet being revered as an undefeated legend brought its own enormous burden. Every step he took was observed, and every decision was analyzed. In this stage of life, his most formidable opponent was the shadow of his own past and the anxiety of consistently living up to the impossible standards he had established. This internal conflict was a marked contrast to his youthful days when he was a man simply struggling to leave a footprint. Just as the double swords in his Nitten Ichiru style had to be perfectly balanced, the legacy he carried had its own duality. On one edge were his achievements and pride. On the other was the fear of stagnation and the perpetual challenge of surpassing himself. This duality served as a constant reminder that while external enemies may diminish over time, the internal battles shaped by anxiety and self-reflection continue to burn. Musashi's life teaches us that the true essence of a warrior lies not just in victory, but in the lessons learned from a lifetime of internal and external grief. In the intricate dance of life, anxiety may often take the lead, but Musashi's journey proves that this emotion can be an ally. His legacy is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, urging us to harness the energy of our anxieties and let them be the fire that tempers our steel.